We are live. Yes. Yes, we're doing it, sis. I know. I'm still learning my way around this. All right, we're live on Substack. Hopefully we'll get some folks joining in. My name is Suri Crowe, and I am thrilled today to have an amazing guest. I've been kind of chasing her down for a while. Her name is Kate Powell. Many of you may know her as Kate for the People. She has a ton of followers on Instagram, and she's kind of new to Substack, but I'm really excited to have Miss Kate joining me today. She is a data guru, and we're going to be talking about how we get out of this shit show that we are currently in America, because obviously if any of you are paying attention, and you must be if you're on Substack, we're in a bad way in America. But unfortunately, Democratic leadership just doesn't seem to be grasping or pulling us where we need to be going. So it is literally the people who are going to have to get us out. I mean, I'm not talking about those like Gavin Newsom, AOC, the Bernie Sanders of the world. They're doing a great job, but it is literally going to be up to us. And that is where Kate for the People steps in. So let's get into it, sister. Let's talk about where we are.
Let's talk about where we are.
Yeah.
My thesis on this thus far, and obviously it emerges by the day because every day seems to be a new horror, is that we are dealing with a Democratic Party that needs to do more, not less. And I'm speaking as an independent. So full disclosure,
that's right.
I am an independent, completely unaffiliated with any party. I would consider myself a moderate, but I'm going to explain what I mean by that as we go along. So bear with me, because I think the word moderate has been sort of
and former conservative. You were a former conservative.
Yes,
so
exactly. So I used to identify as far more conservative, fiscally conservative, I think was the key word that I love to use. And in some ways, I think the principles of that are actually still very much with me. The difference is that, when you realize just what we could have to work with as a country, and what the resources actually are, especially tax resources. Again, I'll get into all of this in a second. Versus what we're actually doing, that's when a lot of the house of cards that the Republicans set up, right? Like, we can't pay for everything, and we can't, and we don't want to be paying for illegals, and like all of these like things that they say on a regular basis, which is all just propaganda, right? But it makes a lot of sense to the average person, right? They're thinking, no, money isn't unlimited, right? And I don't want my tax dollars funding things that are not good for the country, funding criminals, getting healthcare, or whatever it is, whatever that piece of propaganda is. It makes sense. And we can do one of two things. We can either call these people stupid, right? We can say, you're idiots, and why can't you figure this out? Or we can actually educate about what is happening. And that's really what the opposition party's job is. The opposition party is supposed to say, here is the party's platform, the Republicans' platform in this case. Here's why it's nonsensical. And what I'm going to present today is why they're not doing that, because they're basically controlled opposition at this point. And how their policies would actually address the issues that independents/moderates would align. Like, they align ideologically with Democrats on, and they have concerns with how Democrats ideologically align with certain issues that they then run to the Republicans for, but that actually the things that independents already align with Democrats on could address the issues that they run to Republicans about if they would just present it that way. So there's a couple different ways we're going to go here.
Okay.
But I'm going to take you on a data journey with me.
Okay. To clarify, the opposition party is the pro-democracy party in this case. We are the opposition party. Is that what you're saying?
Well, so that's the real opposition party.
Okay.
But when I say opposition party right now, I'm talking about the Democrats. So
yeah, that's
right
what I mean. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
We're saying the same thing. Yeah.
Right. So what I would say, hold on, I'm just adjusting the setting on my phone. What I would say is that Democratic leadership right now, we're kind of at an impasse. We're at a place. Democratic leadership is not behaving like an opposition party. They are behaving like controlled opposition. I believe there are up and comings in the Democratic Party who want to be an actual opposition.
Right.
But even them, by and large, I would say, I know people hate hearing about like messaging and whatever. I think the way they package it to independents, which we're going to talk about why this is important in a second, but the way they package it to independents/moderates, which they are largely overlap, is problematic. So it's problematic across the party, even with the ones who are really trying to be in opposition. So I'm going to do my best to define terms constantly as we go along, because we are dealing with a couple different forces.
Yeah. Big tent.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It is a big tent. And you know what? By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with the Democratic Party being a coalition model. That is actually the most, like, when you look at governments around the world, like Mexico, for instance, they have the Cuatro coalition. Morena is the quote unquote ruling party, but it's like a group of 4 parties, including Morena, that are actually like in control of the government. And there's like 10 parties in Mexico that have like some sort of sway. You can't actually form a government without a coalition.
Right.
And I would argue that we have that in America. It's just the way we've set it up has made it very black and white and bilateral. And we, we could talk about that all day. But let's talk about what we do have and how people identify what the issues are, what is preventing leadership, particularly people who have been either are actual leaders like Jeffries and Schumer, or have just been in it for a long time and I think have kind of just tunnel visioned into the party line as opposed to what actually needs to happen in response to authoritarianism. Because I would even argue that when we're talking about Republicans right now and MAGA, we're talking about authoritarianism. We're not even talking about like what has traditionally been conservative.
Oh, absolutely not. No, these are full-blown fascists is the way that I present it. I mean,
that's what we are.
They're not even pretending to care about democracy anymore. They really aren't.
Right. Yes. I mean, so for the rest of America, which I contend is the majority, who is pro-democracy, whether they identify as leaning liberal, leaning conservative, still Republicans, but not those Republicans, or as Democrats who are either establishment Democrats or are like more liberal, leftist, whatever.
Right. Like,
This is, again, it's a coalition. It's a coalition of pro-democracy people. We can agree on that. The problem is that we are not, like, unless we start to agree on 2 key issues, I'll identify what those are in a minute, and show that actually the Democratic/liberal platform, when it's actually executed as opposed to halfway executed, is the best way to tackle these 2 issues. Until we get there, we are going to continue to struggle. We're going to continue to lose elections. And by we, I mean pro-democracy. Democracy is going to continue to lose elections because right now authoritarianism is winning elections because desperation breeds authoritarianism. So that's where we are. Okay, so let's start with the first source. And I really wish Substack would allow for the sharing of.
Yeah, but maybe that's upcoming because I'm sure that we're not the only people. Yeah.
All right, first source. Unite America did a research brief titled "Growing Cohort of Independent Voters Becomes Critical Segment of Electorate." Why do they say it's a critical segment? Well, when they measure for who is what, who identifies as what in this country, 40% of the electorate is independent.
That's wild.
Right. So only 29% are Democrats and 30% are Republicans. So first of all, Democrats, you're outnumbered. Full stop. If you're a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, you are outnumbered on both sides. But of course, as you can see, Democrats and Republicans are much tighter, much closer. Independents, however, are not. They are actually the majority. Like if we were to hold an election, right, and we didn't have the crazy ballot situation that we have in this country, where every state you have to get on the ballot in every state unless you're one of the 2 major parties and you manage. You know what I mean? Like unless you have that problem. Like let's say we had open ballots where you could freely put up an independent candidate, a Democratic candidate, and a Republican candidate. Democrats and Republicans would never win.
Okay. Yeah.
If everyone just voted down ideological identification lines. So that's the first thing to remember. I think that brings humility to both parties. Like, you would never win. What the Republicans have become very good at doing is selling their bullshit to independents. While Democrats, I think, scorn independents and don't understand, either they take it for granted, they think that they can just get the vote by being themselves, or they scorn them and think that they're just idiots who refuse to understand that, human rights or like the higher, loftier issues, which is not true, by the way. I don't. Yeah. As we're going to see in the data, that's actually not what the data says.
Yeah. But. And just to interject here, I'd have to look up the source and I can, but apparently Democratic registrations are dropping like rocks. And what that's showing is that more people are leaving the Democratic Party and going toward independence. Republicans are just the minority, period. And they know it, which is why they are outwardly trying to rig and steal elections. So we can just say that as a matter of fact.
Yeah. And you know what, though? To their credit, at least they're realizing, hey, we're in a corner and we have to take off the gloves and do whatever we need to do to win elections. Democrats continue to just be like, right. Like,
exactly.
We'll figure it out eventually. We'll continue to win on the rebound off an authoritarian Republican and then not be able to keep the seats. Which is like, this is not a strategy for advancing an agenda.
No,
it's a strategy for stemming the bleeding every once in a while.
Oh my God.
And it's enraging.
Yeah.
So that's what we've got in this country. Now, those independents tend to identify as moderate. So they are about 60% of them identify as moderate.
Wow.
20 or like 19%. Hold on, let me make sure I get the right numbers here. 25% consider themselves conservative or very conservative, with only 15% identifying as liberal or very liberal.
That's crazy.
Right. Now I know that you're like, oh my God, they really are leaning conservative. Kind of. Now, that's just with them self-identifying, right? They're sitting there saying, well, yeah, I'm more liberal or I'm more conservative or I'm really just in the middle, right? And as you can see, the overwhelming think that they're in the middle. This is self-identification. But let's dig into the issues. I was going to say,
I wonder where they fall on the issues. Yeah.
Correct. So they do lean towards the major parties on many issues. And again, I wish I could share my screen because it's a great visual showing, in general, they lean harder on Democrats' platform, like with the Democrats. They lean left on the majority of issues than they lean with Republicans.
Yeah,
and on the top issues that they lean with Republicans, they lean less than they do with Democrats. Here's what I mean. The top 5 issues for the Democratic Party that independents lean Democrat with: abortion, healthcare policy, healthcare costs, so healthcare together, basically, climate change, housing, and education. They lean 70%, 67%, 65%, 64%, and 58%, 56%. Okay, respectively. Again, I wish I could just show you the chart.
I know. I'm like,
on the Republican issues, the top ones are crime, budget, economy, gun rights, immigration. They top out as leaning 66% as opposed to 70% with abortion, 63% as opposed to 67% with healthcare, 62% on the economy as opposed to 64% with climate change. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They actually lean harder towards the Democratic platform once you get to the actual issues. And those issues, might I add, abortion, healthcare, climate change, housing, and education, those are the woke liberal agenda. Like,
which is not the way it is in every other country in the world. That's just considered basic.
Right.
Basic.
But that exactly, which shows you
those are not liberal issues.
Right. Which first of all, that shows you just like what the temperature is. But what I'm saying, I'm speaking in the terms of like the propaganda the Republicans say, right?
Okay,
like,
yes.
Universal education, that's the woke liberal agenda. Well, it turns out that most independents actually think that that's a great idea. And they lean harder on that. Now, the top 2 things that the Democrats lose out on when it comes to independence is crime and budget/economy.
Which blows my mind because the data shows historically that Republicans are terrible on the economy.
Yes.
And also on crime. But
anyway. we're gonna talk about why that happens. Right. and that at least for establishment Dems and leadership Dems, this is a choice that they are making. Because they are refusing to take, first of all, if you think about what I just said, budget, economy, crime. The issues where the independents lean with the Democrats, those are economic/public safety issues. Abortion, healthcare, climate change, housing, and education. All of those things those are economic policy issues. Those are public safety issues. Those are if
gun violence.
Right, exactly. And they actually do, and you know what? Independents lean harder with Democrats on gun violence. As
the majority of the country does. Yeah, sorry.
Right.
Most Americans want some type of gun reform.
But you see there's like this divide, and it's purely based on messaging.
Mhm.
And my thesis is that the Democrats refuse to take those policy issues that I was just listing
Mhm.
to the level. So in order to capture, this is kind of counterintuitive, in order to capture these moderate independents, you have to take these policy issues that they lean with you on
Mhm.
to the higher, not moderate level. Don't moderate on those issues. You need to take them to the higher level where they actually make a difference on crime and the budget and the economy. Because once they do, you have disarmed the weapon that the Republicans constantly bludgeon their Democrats with, which is you're idiots. You don't know how to manage money. You are too soft on crime. You are bleeding hearts. You know what I mean? Like all
Right.
of those, all of that nonsense that the Republicans say, it's kind of true, at least in the way Democrats present the issues, in the way that they refuse to take them to their in the way that they
Mhm.
refuse to take those issues to their full. So, for instance, the corporate tax rate. Biden and the Democrats did absolutely nothing to fix the corporate tax rate after the TCJA. Biden tried to fix
He tried to raise.
he tried to raise something by a few percentage points.
Yeah.
But the different and if we go before Biden, Clinton,
Right. He couldn't get it through.
after Reagan had destroyed the corporate tax rate,
Yeah.
Clinton did nothing about that. In fact, Clinton doubled down on the whole trickle down neoliberal thing.
Yeah.
Which is what guts public services, which is
Right. Biden did try. He just couldn't
education.
get it through Congress. I mean,
but even what Biden tried, you know what I mean? Like, you have to, when you're dealing with a right wing, you have to go so much further on the other end. And that's where Dems keep letting themselves be pulled to the center when, again, the independent/moderate vote could be yours.
So how do we do that?
We're already with it. Yeah. Okay. So here's a couple of things. So let's talk about why are establishment Dems like that, though? Why is the leadership like that? Because that's like the big question, right? If you have the silver bullet, if you know full well, right,
corporate
you could get 40%, right? We need to talk about now the corporate overlord/donor class.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when we're talking about the donor class and the corporate overloads, we're talking about the people who, since Citizens United, have had the ability to basically purchase an election. And that's just the way it is. And I could go off on a tear about the Supreme Court right now. I will not. But when I tell you that...
That's another Substack conversation.
Right, exactly. A completely different interview. And also there are experts who can do a much better job than I do. I would just sit here and rage. I'm going to try and stick with the data.
Okay, yeah.
But what I will tell you is that the data is what it is. Like, the facts are what they are, because the Supreme Court is trash. There we go. I said it.
Underline.
Right. Yep. Underline. Supreme Court is trash. You can quote me. So let's talk about why this is. So the Brennan Center for Justice did analysis on the dark money situation when it came to the 2024 federal races. The expert brief is dark money hit a record high of $1.9 billion in 2024 federal races, which is insane, by the way. So that is who is purchasing these elections. That's who's pulling the strings. Now, you're probably sitting there thinking, as the average Democrat, average liberal, right? Mm-hmm. The knee-jerk reaction to that is they bought Trump into office, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's what the data actually shows. And this is kind of vomit-inducing, I'm not going to lie. Mm-hmm. So when you break it down by party in 2024, more spending, and this has actually been true since the 2018 midterm elections, more dark money spending has been done to support Democrats.
I can't believe that.
Than Republicans.
Cannot believe
so in
that.
2024, of the 1.9 billion, okay, that's what we were dealing with in the total, right? 1.2 billion of that went to Democrats. Only 664 million went to Republicans.
There must have been a sieve on the side that went to... I mean, I don't know. My head cannot wrap around that.
When you look, and you know what, people, I know people like to talk about APAC a lot, which is a big, that's a big PAC, obviously. But there are so many corporate special interests.
Oh yeah, for sure.
At work. And one of the things that they have done is they have gotten a hold, when I say I'm trying to blue pill the Democrats, they have red pilled the Democratic leadership.
Agreed. Hard.
So when you and so that's the first thing. And then there's this great little, it's the most beautiful chart ever on this article. So when you look at the pro-Democrat dark money, the majority sorry, it's just bad.
Well, for our listeners, we'll have some write-ups about this, and you can insert some charts, and so we'll have those later. So
yeah, we'll include all the links and the write-ups and the charts and everything so you can see it. The majority of the pro-Democrat dark money was contributions to super PACs. As opposed to TV, social, like the Republicans had a much more even split of their stuff going to super PACs versus like other things. For Democrats, it's almost majority super PACs. It is people what I'm trying to say is you don't even know who is influencing these Democrats, but they are clearly influencing them.
Yeah.
So it's not just, is the D on the ticket, it's who is the D on the ticket and who is buying their seat, basically.
Right.
So my thesis is that we're dealing in leadership, essentially, and especially in the Senate, where people stay for 6 years. These senators, if an incumbent senator, if they run for re-election, they have like a 97% re-election rate. Like it's almost impossible to unseat.
Yeah, there's like lifetime. I mean, they're forever. They're forever.
They're basically once they get in
many
it's
cases
hard to get them out.
I mean,
both parties. It's not like the Democrats are so woke and they like want to bring in all this new blood. They do not actually. They do not. And this money is there to make sure that doesn't happen.
There's a huge resistance to bringing in new blood. That's
so that is the problem. Basically, is if you're wondering why do Democrats say they're for whatever, but they don't take it to its like fullest extent. Why aren't they advocating for corporate tax hikes? Why aren't they like getting more revenue, broadening the tax base, getting more revenue in so we can fund these programs, stop cutting Medicaid, That's why. Because the people who are funding them more than the Republicans who are winning the elections are very interested in their tax rates not going up.
Right.
And so that's just the facts. And it will not change until new Democratic blood comes in and does something different. And this is why I say that it's like we can't just blame the current leadership and the establishment. We also need to talk to the up and comings, and they need to learn how to speak independent/moderate. Okay. And they need to learn how to make their issues, right? Like, hey, when I say I want Medicare for all, here is how that brings amazing adrenaline to the economy. Here's how that creates public safety. And stop being, because I think what the default is trying to like appeal to heartstrings, right? Try to be like, these are the moral values or whatever. And I gotta say that when people are at their kitchen tables doing their, paying their bills and figuring out if they're going to be able to buy food next week, they don't care what's happening in Gaza. And I'm sorry, I know that sucks, that people in general, it does. And they don't even care what's happening to their neighbor next door, really.
Oh my God, that's really awful. That's wow. That's not a very good reflection on Americans.
But when people are in survival mode, they can't care. You're asking them to care about something that they neurologically cannot care about. When you are in survival mode, when you're at the bottom of the taxonomy and you're not feeling safe, either financially or physically safe, we're going to talk about public safety in a second.
Right.
When you're not feeling safe, you cannot care about other people. You cannot care about the collective good. It is actually impossible for your brain to do. Your brain is literally going like, I have to figure out self-preservation. So when the voters in the exit polls and whatever, when they're doing this analysis and saying Trump got elected based on public safety/immigration, because he conflates the issues, even though they shouldn't be conflated, but he does. He conflates the issues. He said, it's a public safety issue. So he got elected on public safety and economy. He really did get elected on public safety and the economy because the perception and the messaging and everything from either from Democrats or from Republicans about the Democrats or whatever was that the economy was trash, which for the consumer, it was trash, even though it was starting to be fixed. Like it was starting to turn around. But for the end user consumer, it was not.
And now it's so much worse.
It's
1,000 times worse.
So So basically, what I'm trying to say is getting the independent moderate voter to care about these issues based on purity, based on like moral standards, human rights, and all this sort of thing. That has been a losing battle forever for up and coming Democratic like leaders and aspiring leaders and whatever, and they need to stop doing that. They need to stop doing it because it's not gonna work. You are working against human nature. You are working against decades of propaganda. You are not gonna, and that just feeds into
and a right-wing media ecosystem as well.
Right.
But what does matter are people being able to feed their families, which right now is damn near impossible.
Right.
You know, you've got a family. Every time I go to the grocery store, it's crazy. Millions of us are about to lose our health care. These are the issues in front of us. So how do we do this how do we blue pill? Because we're about to be out of time because authoritarianism is here. It's digging in and we're rapidly losing time. So,
exactly.
So what do we do?
How do we get there? Okay. So there's two major issues, right? There's economy and public safety. If you defang the economic and public safety arguments of the Republicans, they will never win an election again. Because in case it wasn't obvious from this year, from just the last 6 months, Republicans are shit at economy and public safety.
Oh my God.
They couldn't balance a checkbook if to save their souls.
I mean, obviously. Just historically, every Republican administration has left us with huge debt and deficits.
But even ignoring the historicity, I mean, big beautiful bill, $4 trillion, raise the debt ceiling by $5 trillion. It's going to add $4 trillion to the deficit for the next it's clear that they don't know. They couldn't manage a fiscal policy. They wouldn't know a fiscal policy if it walked up to them and slapped them in the face.
No, they wouldn't. They're
the party of fiscal responsibility doesn't know what that means.
That's why it like literally triggers me every time I hear one of my friends say, "Well, I'm a fiscal conservative." I'm like, "Well, then you're awful with money. You're literally your piggy bank has a hole in the bottom of it."
Right. And I will say, I think. When people say, because I used to identify and say, I'm fiscally conservative.
Yeah.
What they mean is they don't want, when the average independent/moderate voter that we were just talking about says that, they mean they don't want their tax money wasted. And that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I understand that, but my God.
So you say, right, I don't want your tax money wasted either.
Yeah.
And here's
there you
how
go.
we're going to do it. Right?
Yes, exactly.
Like, meet them where they are. I don't want your tax money wasted either.
There you go.
I want you to be able to buy groceries.
Yeah.
I want you to have health care.
I want you to have health care. I want you to have clean water and clean air.
And I don't want to raise your taxes. I want to raise their taxes.
Yeah.
The corporate overlords. I want to raise their taxes.
Yes.
Not yours. Why would I raise your taxes?
Yes.
You're paying enough. So it's like that turn, right? Instead of saying like, well, you should be like, if your neighbor doesn't have health care, then this is what's gonna, when you get preachy and I'm not accusing you.
Oh no, I can be very preachy because I am a bleeding heart all the way.
Right.
So
and what's funny is I've become very bleeding heart over the years, but what I have figured out is if I come at them like a pastor preaching a sermon, I am not any different than the conservative pastors preaching sermons about how abortion is murder.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's the same, like narrow, you know what I mean? Like it creates that same defense mechanism of the person being like, I'm not saying that I hate other people. I'm saying that I don't want my tax dollars wasted. What is so wrong with that?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong.
Nothing wrong with that. No, there isn't. I actually, that is inherently my frustration is why am I paying for the world's largest, most bloated defense budget and we're not even supporting our allies? Like what is going on?
Right. And that is, and that's a great turn to, I love to tell people, I'm like, I'm just not for corporate welfare, guys.
Yeah. Why am I paying for Jeff Bezos to have tax free?
Right. Yeah. I'm like,
turning it around.
I'm tired of I'm tired of my tax dollars going to corporate welfare. I love saying that. I'm like, we are literally subsidizing corporate profit.
Billionaires. We
have already passed $1 trillion, Suri, in stock buybacks in 2025.
Insanity.
It is August. The last year, it was like, we were projected to go over $1 trillion in 2025, but this is way sooner than anyone. Like, we're probably going to hit $1.5 trillion. I mean, NVIDIA yesterday just approved a $60 billion stock buyback.
So how do we blue pill? So
how do we do this?
We've got these young or new blood because Bernie Sanders is amazing and he's in his 80s, but we've got Zohran Mamdani who's amazing.
We're going to talk about Zohran.
How do we blue pill the Hakeems, sternly word letters, and the Chuck Schumers and the establishment? I mean, you and I both live in Virginia. Mark Warner, what are you doing?
Right. Yes. Come on.
Oh my God.
So economy. We need to tax the rich. I mean, that's just
underline.
There is no other solution except to change the tax code. If we don't change the tax code, nothing else matters. The amount of revenue, just in corporate revenue, I have a whole video on this. From the TCJA, when it was just passed in 2017, from the TCJA.
Explain for people what the TCJA is.
The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which were the tax rates that were just pushed forward further by the big, beautiful bill. So the tax and with some added horribleness. So the tax code that we have had since 2018 is the TCJA. And that tax code took what was a marginal corporate tax rate of 15% to 37% was the top line, and smashed everybody down to 21%, including taking that 15% for the first 50,000 in revenue for all those really small businesses and pushing them up to 21%. So now everybody pays 21%. So small businesses actually got a tax increase.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Jeff Bezos went from paying 37% for all revenues, 10 million plus. So we're not talking, like, literally the only one who's getting taxed at the top rate was the huge businesses. And took Jeff Bezos's 37% top rate and smashed it down 21%. And his effective tax rate is like 2%, really, by the time they get their subsidies and their whatever.
I'm surprised it's even as high as 2%.
Yeah. So, right. It's sometimes almost nothing. So the book rate, the paper rate for corporations right now is 21%. The average effective tax rate across industries is 13%. It was 22% before the TCJA, but the average effective tax rate, once they're past credits, subsidies, grants, whatever these corporations end up getting, which most of those benefits, by the way, go to large corporations, not small businesses. Okay. Their effective tax rate has been 13%. Your effective tax rate as a person is like 30.
Yeah. And
that's insane. It's insane.
Yes.
It is absolutely ridiculous. And of course, though, it's like, well, look, economic growth. Okay, guys, like, I don't have time to go into all of it right now, but I have tons of content about how it does not effectuate growth. And in fact, it is a cabal with corporations and economists to try to report otherwise. There is an actual movement among economists. Luckily, they're getting unmasked constantly, but they are 3 times as likely to be published. I'm sorry, 2.3 times, something like that. 2.3 times as likely to be published in journals if an economist will say that corporate tax cuts fuel economic growth. That's been studied. Like, so even though the data and the historical data is clearly showing the opposite, economists who largely work for the corporate donor class, are encouraged to, in their publications, in their research and whatever, to demonstrate what historically, I mean, clearly the data doesn't show that.
No, it does not.
They do all sorts of voodoo to try to get you there, but luckily there's an increasing body of research. So we need to tax the rich. We need to raise the minimum wage.
Yes.
Democrats, I'm sorry, we have to raise the goddamn minimum wage. If we don't raise it, that part where the economy is doing better, but the average person doesn't feel it.
Can't. I mean, and the other thing, I just want to say this because this is something that I personally understand, is that the stock market may be going bonkers, but for the average person who doesn't have a stock portfolio like myself, that means nothing. That means shit to me.
It doesn't.
Like, I don't have a big blue chip portfolio. Like,
and when
upper middle class and wealthy people. Yeah.
Right. And when it's going badly, even if you're not in the market, your retirement is in the market.
Right.
And therefore you suffer. You pretty much only, like, of the 2 outcomes, whether it's like, if it's going well, maybe your investments, whether they're like Roths or retirement or whatever, they might do moderately better. They're not doing as well as they are for like the corporate donor class, but they're doing moderately better. If it crashes, you lose it all.
That's right.
Lose everything because you're the exit equity when it crashes.
That's right. In 2008. But people who are living paycheck to paycheck, which is me at the moment, sadly, we don't have the extra money to be putting away. That's how come people need to be paid more, a hell of a lot more in this country, so that they have, most Americans don't have $1,000 or $400 for an emergency or whatever the statistic is. So people are living hand to mouth. And then the wealth inequity, ever since Reagan started the trickle down economics, I mean, you can just see you can just see
there's
how
an actual K. There's an actual split. So
yeah,
we're in
the
what's
wealth
called the
gap.
K-based economy.
Yes.
And where wages and productivity have split, where spending has split between the classes. The wealthy are doing more of the spending, way more of the spending.
Way more. I mean,
it's all disproportionate, right?
How do we
and that's
get
why
this
I have
go?
my that's why I have my two economies series.
Your two economies, yes. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Because I want people to see it's like, yes, there are actually two economic realities. One for the corporate donor class and the people who are close enough to them to benefit.
Yes.
And everybody else.
And everyone else.
Leading into the 2024 federal election, the economy for everybody else was shit. It just was. Like GDP was inflation was coming down, but generally it was coming down, but it wasn't, coming to the consumer because, again, corporate donor class, like they had changed all these, prices raised like a rocket and dropped like a feather, as people like to say, like, taxes, interest rates for consumers. Anyway, I can go on. So we have these three issues. So we're taxing the rich, we're raising minimum wage. The final thing is we're prohibiting stock buybacks. Prohibiting stock buybacks if you receive 1 cent of federal money. Here's what I mean. If you are receiving a federal tax credit, as like Apple, for instance, you should not be able to do a stock buyback. Why? Because you have taxpayer dollars in your bank account right now. And I am sorry, but there is no universe in which taxpayer dollars should be going towards purchasing back your own stock to inflate your earnings per share. There's no universe where that should be happening.
Yeah.
What should be happening is if you want to do a stock buyback, that's totally fine. You do that with your own money in a year when you are not receiving a subsidy, a credit, a grant, a federal contract, whatever. Like, I don't care what it is. You should not be allowed to purchase back your own stock with taxpayer dollars in your bank account. Full stop. I don't care. But of course, the dark money going to those politicians is saying, oh, absolutely not. Like, you will not put in that kind of reform.
Right.
But why do I have those two minimum? I have these three together for a reason. I have minimum wage and prohibiting stock buybacks there because actually that's how you make sure that if you're increasing corporate taxes, that corporations are actually going to turn around and use their profits for R&D and research and development and increasing wages and all that.
I was going to say increasing wages because
you're
CEO,
them.
You see like Robert Reich, I'm sure you follow him he shows all the time the insane huge pay raises that CEOs have gotten over the years. And I, having worked for corporate America, I mean, people are just paid like $40,000. You can't get by on that.
Right.
That is not a livable wage or whatever. So yes.
So that's the economy, right? We have those three things. Those three things need to happen. They're not going to happen with the current establishment Democrats because of the dark money we were just talking about. The corporate donor class is preventing Democratic leadership from doing those three things because it hurts their bottom line. So whoever is up and coming in the Democratic Party, whoever's going to blue pill this party into actual action that will like have economic benefits for all of those issues. Again, all of the issues that the independents love the Democrats for: abortion, healthcare, climate change, housing, and education. Those are all things that can be dealt with when we have enough tax revenue in the Treasury to deal with them. Housing and education can be universal if we tax the shit out of the rich.
Yeah.
Climate change, we the Inflation Reduction Act, which really got at like renewable energy and climate change and not dismantling the Environmental Protection Agency, and like all that sort of stuff. All of those things can be accomplished by those three economic factors. And all of those things jet fuel that. Like when you say this is the economic argument and we have to create, we create these things, it just like you'll get the independent moderates that way. So that's the economy. The second one I want to talk on is, and this is where we're talking about Mom Donnie, my boy Mom Donnie, is public safety, crime. So crime is the top issue that independent moderates lean with Republicans on, 66%. It's not as strong as the top issue for Democrats, which is 70%, but it's still strong. That's a strong lean. Okay. Now, I don't know if anyone's been awake for the last 6 months, but what's insane today, and this just came out today, AP-NORC polling just came out showing that the majority of Americans approve of Trump's approach to crime. Why? I have no freaking idea because
I'm gonna have to look this poll up. Like
it was released today, actually.
Okay, yeah, I haven't.
It is mind-boggling to me, but it's only mind-boggling to me because I can.
Are they just polling MAGA?
Right. Well, Right. I know. And that's the knee-jerk reaction, right? Is to be like, there's no freaking way.
I'm very sus about polls.
But when we look at the hard data on crime, it has been going down. It has been going down for years.
It was going down under Biden. I just want to say, yes,
exactly.
tremendously.
And also, I always talk about the economy first, because when economic factors are up, crime goes down. Crime is largely motivated by poverty, by desperation. People are not impoverished and desperate when all of the economy, not just the economy for the rich, is doing well. So that's kind of like the snake biting its own tail. However, here's what this poll, the one that I just cited that approves Trump's numbers, this is based, remember, on people's perception, right? Their perception. That's exactly right. Has nothing to do with the data. And we're going to talk about safety again. We're going to talk, sorry, I'm smacking my microphone. We're going to talk about safety again, and we're going to talk about what people are capable of thinking or not when they are in fight or flight mode, when they are in survival mode. And people do not, if you are
perception. I'm looking at it right now, and it's just, it's the perception thing.
Right.
People believe that large cities are crime hubs.
Right.
It's not.
And they think Trump sending in the National Guard is going to fix it, which is, by the way.
And crime actually went up substantially under his first term. Under COVID, people were desperate. It dropped precipitously under Biden, and now
we're here.
Because I've done these stories.
And that's the data, but the perception, because when you are the person being carjacked, when you are the person being assaulted or whatever, you don't care that crime is down across the nation. You don't feel safe. And what I love, let's talk about Mamdani now. What I love, I literally, I don't think people are talking enough about this particular aspect of his campaign and his platform. His idea of creating a whole separate part of law enforcement that is social work focused, that is deploying social workers to calls where it's like, this isn't a crime issue, it is a mental health issue, it's a housing issue, it's insert things that police get called about all the time.
Oh, right.
But they're the responders. So what are they supposed to do? And if you're in a great area with a great police department that's well trained in the social work aspects of the job and all this goes fine. When you're not, it doesn't.
Right.
And really, it is so unfair to ask our law enforcement to do that. So here's where I think also independent.
Well, there was a big push for that under the Obama administration, because I was working in local TV news about having these community police forces and bringing people in who were trained to handle that. And then, of course, when Trump got in, it was all defanged and defunded.
Right.
This is the thing that drives me crazy. Right? Like, here's what happened, and here's what really happened.
Correct. So Mamdani has done such a great job of saying, I'm not saying defund the police. I'm saying reallocate the resources so that law enforcement, who is there to prevent violent crimes from happening, can respond to those crimes. And other issues like, a person is sleeping outside. Why is a police officer responding to that? Like, at the end of the day, what are they going to do besides put them in jail for a couple of days? They'll be right back out on the street in a couple of days. That's all. Like, what was the point of that?
No, we're dealing with.
It might cause, and it may, in the confrontation of that, right?
Frequently does.
Might cause a violent crime to occur that wouldn't have otherwise occurred.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if a social worker or someone else or a law enforcement officer trained in that, responds to person sleeping outside, and it's like, okay, why are you here? How long have you been here? What resources have you tried? What are we doing? Okay, we need to talk about substance use, like all those things, right? When we're doing that, first of all, we're not creating a situation where we might manifest a violent crime that didn't have to happen, like assault on an officer or something like that.
Right.
But we're also we're actually solving the problem, and we're not putting a law enforcement officer who doesn't have the requisite training in a position that they're not going to be successful in. And I am speaking as someone who lives in a city that happens to have an amazing police department, and when they do respond to domestic,
you do. I don't.
No, I know. I'm bragging about myself, but like our local
not a fan of my police force.
They happen to be top notch at this. Like I have unfortunately had to call them several times, and over things that I'm always thinking, as the independent person that I am, thinking the police should not have to be responding to this, but there's no one else to call.
Well,
and when and luckily they have been wonderful. But how many of like the headline stories of like, you know, law enforcement involved violence and like all this sort of thing?
Oh yeah. I've covered so many with kids with autism, and it goes sideways. But none of this is going to change until we get Republicans out of power. And so we could talk about this forever, and I'm just but how do we, because we're about out of time to blue pill in our time here, right, but also you come back. We can do this all the time. I love doing Substack Live. So we'll come back like next week. Let's talk more, because there's so much to talk about.
Right.
But the thing that worries me, Kate, is time is ticking, and Republicans are no longer hiding that Trump has said twice this week that he wants to be some people call me a dictator. That's not accidental. I mean, he may be demented out of his mind, but he's sending a message like, I want to acclimate people that I am now a dictator.
There's a couple things there that I wanted to So I just laid out the issues that I think, again, up and coming Democratic leadership, they need to embrace these. They need to shove the current leadership out of the way and say, that's nice. I don't care what your corporate donor class is telling you to do.
Okay.
This is what needs to happen for the country. The end. Okay. And they need to be loud about it, and they need to be educating the public. They need to be educating the public. I'm not saying like you have to do exactly like me, but that's what I'm doing on my platform, is saying like, this is why we do this. This is why we tax the rich. This is why we do. I'm getting ready to do a piece on the public safety issue of like felt safety versus perception versus what's real.
Please do.
How we include that. I'm going to be doing that upcoming. So I think, again, like these are the issues that are going to move the independent moderate voters, like myself. You know, though in many ways I've become a liberal nut job, and you can quote me on that.
Oh my God, I can't even I wouldn't describe you that way at all.
Well, but you know, like as far as like again, in terms of like the propaganda
to the cult.
Right? The fact that I'm sitting here saying like, I think education should be universal, and they're like, oh my God, you're crazy.
Yes, that healthcare should be a right, you know.
Right, yeah, I know that's wild.
No,
but
it's crazy, you're
right. And I'm like, no, it's actually very economic and easy when we tax the shit out of the rich. So, okay. So that's the platform issue.
Okay.
Right? The other thing that needs to stop happening, and I'm going to try and do this as quickly as possible, is my last like data map thing. Stop talking about Trump.
Oh.
I'm going to say it again. We need to stop talking about Trump.
Wow.
Because you know what? Trump is a lame duck president.
Is he?
He is. He's not going to do it. Because who is out there right now stumping for the Republican platform?
He seems like he's going to stay. I don't know.
It's J.D. Vance.
Well,
J.D. Vance is the one working the country right now. J.D. Vance is the one still polling ahead of Gavin Newsom, AOC, and Pete Buttigieg in fantasy presidential polls.
Is he really?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up myself.
There's I think it was Pew Research did, one of their, and now it's very early, obviously.
Yeah, it is.
We're not near 2028, but even in this hellscape where you're looking around going like, there's no way that anybody could think a Republican's going to do a good job. J.D. Vance is the winner with a sample with the electorate over all three of those candidates.
I can't believe that you're not looking at like real clear. Like there are only certain like Quinnipiac. I would look at them. Like I'm just looking. I'll have to check later. Wow. I'll have to roll through my polls.
Right.
Because
so what I'm saying is that we need to stop talking about Trump, because Trump is a lame dunk president. Trump is gonna do himself, right? Like he's gonna be him, and it's not like anyone's changing his mind. He's a wild card even with the Republicans. Like they don't want these tariffs. These tariffs are driving them crazy. But like he's freaking doing it because he's himself and whatever. So they're just and he's he got them to where they are, so they're gonna let him go off and have his thing. But the heir is J.D. Vance. And he is actually doing quite well because they are doing a great job of letting Trump be the crazy man. J.D. Vance is kind of staying away from it. Like,
J.D. Vance is on vacation every time I look. Like that's where he seems to be.
J.D. Vance has actually been doing a lot of speeches, a lot of visits, a lot of rallies, a lot of pumping up the big, beautiful bill. But he's only doing it with the base, right? And he's staying out of the fire of what Trump is doing right now.
I do see that. He seems to be deliberately staying away from the madness
what the Republicans
of Trump. Yeah.
So this is my last jab at the Democrats, and I mean this in the kindest way possible. The Republicans are doing with J.D. Vance what the Democrats should have been doing with Kamala Harris for the whole 4 years that Biden was in office.
Mm.
They are dress rehearsing him. They are protecting him from the platform issue, whatever PR issues there are with Trump. They are protecting Vance from it because he right now is their golden child and their heir to the kingdom.
He has no riz. He has absolutely no likability.
I'm telling you, as someone who used to be conservative, he has all the riz in the world with that group.
Are you serious? Wow.
He is perfect. He is young. He is energetic. He is decent looking if you can get past all of the fascism. He is married to a beautiful wife. He sounds fairly normal most of the time, right? Like even conservatives who voted for Trump will sometimes be like, oh, Trump's just trumping. He's grandstanding. He's whatever. Like even they will sometimes look at him that way, but they view J.D. Vance as like the level-headed saint. This is dangerous.
That is extremely dangerous.
I liken J.D. Vance to Nayib Bukele.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
If you don't know who Bukele is, he's the current dictator of El Salvador. And yes, he is now a dictator. They just amended their constitution at his behest, so he will now be a
sadist.
He's terrible.
Evil.
But Vance has the potential to become our Bukele, and he is dangerous. And people are not talking about him at all. They continue to rail on Trump. They continue to talk about how crazy he is. He is all of those things. You know what? I don't care anymore. He's in the office. He's going to stay there until 2028. And I need to be attacking the person who will be his heir. And right now, that person, unless something drastic changes, is Vance.
Yeah. Well, the way we attack is, like I said, get clear on these policy points, show the through line between these policy points and the economy and public safety, how we make people feel safe as well as bring the statistics down, how we make people feel economically well as bring up GDP and the markets are doing well and whatever, have both economies roaring at the same time. These are the things Democrats have to do. They will not do it as long as it's controlled by leadership who is also controlled by the corporate donor class. Agreed. I agree. I personally feel like there's too much of a push for Democrats to go more moderate, more corporate. And
correct.
And the issues that you and I have been talking about today is that people want gun violence reform, even on the right. I mean, people want health care. Yep. People want to be able, people want clean air. Ask the most, staunch MAGA head. I call them MAGA heads. Do you want to have contaminated, water in your... No. I mean, and that's the way we have to present it. But that's what's happening right now. All of these EPA regulations, et cetera, and it's all controlled by these corporate big fossil fuel.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's...
Yep. And it's controlling, and right now it controls the leadership of both parties beautifully.
Yeah. Well,
so that's why you don't see the Democrats freaking out about the fact that the EPA has been essentially gutted by both the Supreme Court and the president this year. You have not heard a peep of it from Schumer or Jeffries. Not even one time. Maybe once in some floor speech for a quick second. But quite frankly, I listen to a lot of them and I cannot recall a single time that either one of those people.
I don't really hear them doing anything, quite frankly.
Right. Yes, there's a lot of finger wagging and whatever. But again, they're finger wagging at Trump. I don't care anymore. We need to show how Vance and everyone else is just as much a part of it. They need to understand that it is not the Republican Party is sane and normal and whatever, and they just have this crazy guy who happens to win the presidency. The party itself is a dangerous authoritarian regime.
The MAGA, Republican Party. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. It is being led. Right. Whether, and you yourself, individual, if you're listening to this, you might be a Republican who is I don't identify that. That's fine. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the leadership of the Republican Party right now is an authoritarian fascist.
100%.
100%. That's it.
100%.
You can sit there and debate about it all you want. Whether individual Republican voters are ascribed to that or what is a completely separate story. I would venture most of you don't. But that the leadership is 100% that. The leadership of the Democrats is just enabling that right now. They are not doing...
They're not.
They need to be blue-pilled so bad.
Aggressively.
And blue-pilling are those platform points I was talking about, actually dealing with the economy, actually dealing with public safety, including people's... And you need to deal with people's felt economic welfare and safety, as well as the actual statistics. You have to do both. And you can do both policy-wise when you have enough money to deal with it, which means you need to tax the shit out of your corporate donors. I'm sorry. You have to tell them, you know what? We're done. We're breaking up. It's a Taylor Swift song, right? Taylor Swift album. Like,
we are
never
never, ever getting
back together, right? We got to be done.
Yeah.
And you got to do it. And if you won't do it, then others should supplant you. Others in the Democratic Party should be like,
100%.
Thank you so much for your service. Sit down
with all your corporate benefits.
Right. Chris Murphy is going to be the new leader or something.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what needs to happen.
100%.
And if we don't, and we need but if we continue to first of all fall for all of Trump's rage bait, and not deal with the very real threat of Vance and others like him.
Yeah.
If we continue to do that, and if we continue to spin our wheels and not take those issues, that moderates are with you on to the level to which they will actually be effective policy, which means not moderating on the issue itself. It means pushing those issues so that the moderates are saying, oh, look, it's not wasting my money and it is affecting good change. We're good then. That's all the independent moderate wants. They just want to know, hey, this thing is going to cost the amount it should cost. It's going to have the outcomes it should have. I'm going to be better off. My family's going to be better off. Awesome. Here's my vote. Goodbye. I don't want to hear about it anymore. Yeah. That is the majority of independent moderates. They don't want to be in this political partisan, dogfight. They don't want. This is nonsense. We look ridiculous to the entire world. And it's embarrassing for most of the electorate, I think, which is why you probably have a lot of people who have heads in sand. And because we are in a two-party system, because we don't have, as I said at the beginning, we don't have a three-party thing where the independents would win if it was simply about putting up an independent candidate. Since we don't have that, our best chance is in 2026. The Democrats have to either swallow the blue pill themselves or be blue pilled by upcoming leadership and get and move this thing forward. Otherwise, like you said, time's ticking. And
time is ticking.
I'm not saying that it would be irreparable after 2026. I'm saying that the amount of time to repair is only going to exponentially grow if we cannot start turning this ship around in 2026. We will hit the iceberg.
I feel like I personally am not sure how reparable it would be after if the Republicans hold the House.
I tend to be very optimistic, and I'm not just optimistic. I just very that if you look at the arc of history, abolitionists and women's rights and whatever. That's
I look at Russia.
Yeah, well, yes.
So
also that.
I mean, someday they may break out, but it's been a long time. So
I do when people are like, just leave if you don't like the U.S. No, I actually love the U.S. I love America. I love our promise. Our promise has not been delivered to everybody at most stages of our history.
No, it really never has. Yeah.
But I love our promise, and I love in the short lifetime of this country, because it is short.
Very short.
The short, I had to explain to someone the other day tried to say we're the oldest republic in the world, and I just stared at them and was like, I don't know what you mean by that, but
education is also something that we really need
republic.
Really, we don't have a lot of educated.
An unfortunate comment, but I was just like, you know what? In the short lifespan of our republic, we have shown some pretty magnificent ability to change, some real promise and resilience and ability to move something forward drastically over a relatively short period of time. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're in shit right now. We are totally in shit. I'm not gonna sit here and say that we're not. But I do believe, I really truly believe that if there is a nation that could turn this around in the next year that we have and start fixing this, it is the US. Yeah. I think we have the right stuff to do it. And even if for some reason we can't get everyone to wake up enough next year to do it next year, and we do have, unfortunately, a longer runway to do it, I believe that we can still do it.
Agreed.
Very painful and hard. But don't obey in advance. There's this book called On Tyranny.
Oh yes, yeah. I have it. I have that. It's one of On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder. Everybody get it. Everybody get it.
Don't obey in advance. Authoritarianism really only works when everyone is when you give up, not when you work for it. You don't need a whole lot of people to as you can see, there's a very small cohort of people in the White House right now moving ahead authoritarianism just fine. It doesn't require a whole lot of workers. It requires everybody else to be like, okay, well,
compliance. I mean, we've speaking of corporate America, look what's happened like in my business, in the media. I mean, just folding like a house of cards, like, you know, these law firms and, you know, my old school, like,
because they're part of the corporate donor class, like those law firms. I'm sorry, but most of them, I'm like, they are part of the problem.
Oh my God. I'm just,
some of them aren't, but a lot of them are.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just, So I know we've, I want to definitely land this plane, but, I truly like, this is possible. It obviously requires bravery, because it requires breaking from a political system that people take for granted, which is like the only way to win is to raise all this money with all of these donors or whatever. I invite everyone to look at Australia, who literally got rid of all money out of politics. You are not allowed to have money in politics anymore.
That's fantastic.
It's gone. So it's not impossible. It's totally possible. We need to go through some painful things. It's painful to break up with the system.
Yeah.
It's painful to not be a career politician where it's like that's your whole existence is just getting elected versus representing your people.
People doing the will of the people, right?
Right. But we the people outnumber them.
We do.
We do. That's why I'm like, I will not go quietly into that good night. Like I will not. Like you know, because I'm like, sir, the Constitution starts with me.
It does. It does.
The people.
We the people. And there are more of us than there are of they. And we need to think of that when we see like unhinged psychopaths like Stephen Miller. Like there are more of us.
Right.
And that's what I'm hoping that people like you and I can motivate other people who are like, oh, it's hopeless. No, like just join us in whatever you're doing. Remember that there is strength in your voice and by coalescing, and let's blue pill the shit out of these Democrats and move these old, not even old by age, but if you are like refusing to change, get the flip out of the way.
Right.
Like, honestly, I'm just done.
For the sake of our republic/democracy.
Yeah.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, Suri. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, Kate, thank you. This was so enlightening, and everybody go follow Kate on her amazing Instagram where she does these breakdowns called The Two Economies. I can't wait for you to do the one felt and what's going to be called?
On public safety statistics versus felt safety.
Yes. I will be all over that because I look at the whole just now, the AP-NORC one. I'm like, oh, of course, this is what they're perceiving, but I already know the backstory because I've been covering this for so long. And yes, follow her on Substack. I will have this entire conversation. Wow, we went for an hour, but there's so much to dig into.
I know.
And then, this was great. Thank you so much, girl, for doing this. Have a wonderful long weekend, and we'll be back. There's so much more for us to talk about. We will be back here battling it out for the next until we get our democracy back.
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Right. Thanks,
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.